Indians. That's an interesting thing for me because when I went to Cole Middle School, we were the Eagles. And so it's an interesting thing. But I just want to thank everyone who made this possible. Thank you, young people. I'm really excited. It was a little bit of a process for me getting comfortable with the idea of coming back to my middle school. And I really wish I could be there with you in person to walk through those hallways again, to see those iconic pillars, out front, and just to kind of absorb the energy of being back at Cole Middle School. So yeah, the introduction was accurate. I grew up in the Whittier neighborhood. It was the best commute ever. It was a 2-block walk from my house to the front doors of Cole, like just straight down the street. There's a church I walked by. I walked through that little park there between 31st and Martin Luther King, and then I would arrive there. You would think that living so close to school, I wouldn't ever be late, but I was constantly late because I guess the closer you live to a place, the more frequently you will be late. So there's a couple of things I want to share with you. First of all, so the big thing I have with me today is my Cole 1989-90 yearbook. This was when I was in the 8th grade. So for those of you keeping track, that would be approximately 32 years ago, right? And it's amazing to think about that passage of time because back then, I didn't ever think that I could be where I am today. I just didn't. I came up in a pretty good house. Like we didn't have a lot of money, obviously, but my dad came here from Mexico in 1974. He didn't have much, but everything he had, he gave us. And my mom's a Denver kid. She went to East High School, but I don't hold that against her. I'm a Manual graduate as well. So there's a couple of things I want to share with y'all. I have some slides, but I do not know how to share them. So I'm going to try to do that first. What I've got for you is a couple of pictures. I want to tell you, let's see, Chrome tab. All righty. All right, maybe somebody can let me know, give me a thumbs up if I'm sharing.
Yeah, Mr. Munoz, you're good to go. We can see that.
Beautiful. All right. So I'm going to start with this, with a couple of slides here. So this is me. I went to the University of Colorado. I have a master's in education from Denver, Manual Thunderbolt 94, Cole Eagle. This is the 2021 Colorado Teacher of the Year, circa 1987. I was in 6th grade. And I just want you to take note. Look at that collar. It's a Coca-Cola rugby shirt, and this is me. I always needed a haircut, always. They used to call me Mowgli in the neighborhood, like the Jungle Book kid. Middle school was fun. I enjoyed middle school. But as I went back through, so this is me right here. Check out that fit, and that was the first girl I ever got to take to a dance. This is from my homeboy Eric. In the yearbook, there's all kinds of fun stuff looking at the yearbook. But as I looked through my old yearbook, I was like, I need to find a picture of myself in the 8th grade. So if you look, you see there's something missing. My picture's been cut out. And it's because I cut it out. And that took me down a lot of really hard memories, right? Because even though I had a lot of friends, I had a lot of fun in my time at Cole, I was full of self-doubt every day of every week, of every month, of every year. And my message to you and my message to young Gerardo Munoz is lean into who you are. I spent so much energy trying to be, sorry, I just realized my camera's not on. There we go. Trying to be what someone else wanted me to be, or trying to fit in, that I neglected all the amazing things I gained from growing up in the Whittier neighborhood, from being around my peers, from being around my community. And it's only been in the last few years that I've actually come around to embrace the idea that maybe the creator maybe the creator made me exactly the way I'm supposed to be. So that's my message to you all. Middle school is wild. Some of you, I think, are probably enjoying it. Some of you are probably having a really hard time. And I'll tell you that both of those things happened to me. There were days that things got better, and there were days that things got worse. There were days that I got in trouble. There were days that I was celebrated. All of those things happened over the course of my time. But the thing that I wish somebody had told me, and that I'm telling you today, is you are exactly the person you are supposed to be. You have been given personality traits. You're funny, you're smart, you're quiet, you're reserved, you're reflective, you're serious, you are athletic, you are charismatic, you're musical, all of those different things. That is who you are as a person. And never mistake who you are for what you do, because you're in school to learn to do new things, but you are not in school to become a different person. So that's my message to you. And I just want to let you all know I really appreciate being in here. I know I actually am more interested in hearing your questions and hearing the things that you would like to talk about. But I want to give you a little bit of overview. Did I ever think that a kid from the East Side could become Colorado State Teacher of the Year? I didn't. And I did it by being myself and by standing on the shoulders of the amazing people in my community. Thank you very much. Let's hear some questions.
Thank you, Mr. Munoz, for sharing your story with us all. We appreciate it. So, up next, we will have some of our peers from Sources of Strength share out and ask some questions. One more thing, it takes a lot of courage to participate in a whole school morning meeting, so let's appreciate and be kind to our speakers. So on that note, first up, we have Melody.
All right. Hi, Melody.
Hey, Mr. Munoz. So the question Melanie had is, what inspired you to be a better teacher since you disliked school when you were younger? So what inspired you to be a teacher? Because we could tell you had some rough patches and you disliked school. So what inspired you to do that?
Yeah, I really didn't like school, but I loved learning. I've always loved learning. So I think there's two questions there. The number one reason I became a teacher was because the kids I grew up with didn't have the teachers that they needed. And it's different from your school, right? But when I was in school, I had teachers that cared and worked really hard, but I couldn't relate to a lot of them. There were not a lot of Black and brown teachers when I was in school. So I wanted to be that teacher that could understand the kids from my neighborhood a little bit better than the traditional teacher could. And what motivates me to keep growing and getting better at this, honestly, it's young people like you. Like, I come into my job and sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm tired today. Got a lot on my mind. It's like really hard. But young people, you do not know how much energy you give us teachers. Like I was just in my class like a minute ago and we were just going into some stuff and I was just so hyped to be around them. I want to be the best teacher I can be for my students because my students are working hard and they care and they bring me energy and they're funny. I draw energy from you young people. That's what motivates me to keep on pushing and keep going back. I've been doing this for 22 years now, and I've never had a bad year, ever. And it's because of y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Munoz. Next up, we have Lorida.
Right. I'm loving these names, y'all, by the way.
Hi.
Diana, Melody, Lorida. I love it. Love it, love it, love it.
Although you disliked school, what were your grades like?
You know what? I actually got pretty good grades. But I think I think middle school, my grades weren't that good. Like, I think I would get by with like, B's and C's. And looking back, I'm kind of like, how did I not get like A's? Like, I was capable of doing the work. Why was I not getting A's? And I think it's because I was thinking about a lot of different things. So when I got to high school, I was a little bit nervous about what that would be like because I'm like, man, my grades were like, they were okay, but I was like, high school is going to be harder and it's going to be like, what am I going to do? In high school, I actually got better grades. I had a B+ average, and that was really good. And what I discovered was that if you walk into a classroom just with the focus, I'm going to learn something today, like teach me something. I'm a person, even though I didn't like school, I really liked being taught. Teach me something I don't know, help me learn something about the world. And I think that's what kind of kept me going as far as that goes. But my grades, I'm going to say they probably could have been better, definitely. And it probably would have opened more doors for me in terms of going to the college that I wanted to.
Thank you, Mr. Munoz. Next up, we have a question from Cash.
All right, Cash.
What was it like growing up on the East Side as a kid, and what challenges were you faced with?
Man, Cash, I love that question. You know, I've spent a lot of years since I left the neighborhood thinking about what those years meant in my life. So I actually was happy most of the time growing up on the East Side. You know, I had my crew of friends, Brian, Jacoby, Latif, Curtis, like Scotty, Jason, like these guys. And we would just kind of roam the neighborhood, hanging out at each other's houses, you know, playing ball, messing with each other, just, you know, playing around. There were times that it got hard. There was a good amount of violence that was happening in the summers when we were there. And it wasn't something we consciously worried about every day. We just kind of knew it was there. And we all had parents who kind of tried to shelter us from it. But, you know, the neighborhood was a place where even through the hard times, we all kind of stuck together and we all kind of got each other's back and tried to support each other. I remember kids would hang out at my house after school because their parents were working, and we would do that. We would try to help each other out with things. I think the hardest thing came after middle school and going into high school, where a lot of my classmates really started falling behind. And looking back, I wish I would have tried to encourage them a little bit more, tried to like stay with them and be that ally. But it was really hard to watch that happen. There's a lot of guys that didn't finish school, a lot of guys who ended up getting into some pretty negative stuff. And so I look back with a little bit of sadness, but also with a lot of joy, because I think the East Side gave me strength, and I think it gave me the ability to keep going even when things are hard. Thanks for that question, Cash. That's a great question.
It is a great question and a great answer also. Next up, I would love to hear from Irvin.
Right. Get this, Irvin.
Hi, Mr.
Hello.
Munoz. I can't see your name right.
That's all right, Munoz. It's all good. It's all good.
What grade do you teach now, and what's the hardest thing about it?
So currently I teach 7th grade and then 10th grade primarily, and then I have some 11th and 12th graders scattered here and there. The hardest thing about teaching, I think, is that I want to be the best teacher I can possibly be every single day. And trying to teach, you know, some of my students remote, some of them in person, it's hard because I felt like I was a really good teacher until this year. This year has been really hard. The hardest thing about it is just adjusting to when changes happen. And I'm kind of stubborn, and so I get mad when things change on me. Like, I like things the way I like them. But, you know, I think that as I've gotten comfortable saying, okay, this is kind of what this is right now, and I'm going to still do my best for my students, I think that's it. Yeah, so just knowing that my students really need me to be as good as I can be every single day, I think that's hard, but it's also a challenge that I really embrace. Love that question, Irvin.
Thank you, Mr. Munoz.
Wait, actually, Mr. Carter,
I
think we fixed Melanie's mute issue, and so I didn't want to take away her opportunity to use her voice. So Melanie, on the fly, came up with another question since we used hers already. So Melanie, let's hear from you.
A question I would like to ask is, what would you do to help Denver Public Schools better?
I love this question. Melanie. I think the first thing I need to do if I want to help Denver Public Schools improve is to trust myself that I have good ideas. I think our first step to making a difference is actually believing that we could make a difference. Our ideas don't have to be perfect. We don't have to have perfect solutions, but if we see things, we have a responsibility to bring them up in conversation. And so my first step is to trust myself. My second step is to make sure that the students who make up the majority of our school district get their voices heard and get an education that both helps them move forward and explore new things, but also helps them reflect and learn about themselves. So a big thing I would like to have happen in DPS, I would love every student in DPS to be able to take Latinx, Mexican American studies. I would love every kid in DPS to take Black studies, Black history, Black literature, those kinds of things, because it gives us an opportunity as Black and brown people to learn about ourselves, but it also gives the rest of the community a chance to learn about each other. And then I would stop telling schools that they have to compete with each other. We should work together. I grew up in a place that was a community. We weren't perfect. We had drama. There were difficult things, but at the end of the day, we knew that our whole community was our whole responsibility. So that's why I would say, Melanie, I'm so glad you got to ask that question. I would say, trust my own voice. I would say, make sure that we are seen in the curriculum, and make sure that we remember that we do have to stick together as a community and work together.
Awesome answer, Mr. Munoz. So you guys have the new emojis up there. Let's show some love to the Source of Strength students for showing courage and sharing our questions. Go ahead and press on those love and hand clap emojis. Give them some love right now. All right, so we're going to open it up to the crowd. We have about 3 minutes, so I'm going to spend about 2 minutes just to open it up to a crowd. Students, if you have any questions for Mr. Munoz, please write it in the chat, because I know most of you guys are on mute. Write it in the chat, and then I'll communicate it to Mr. Munoz so he can answer it. Oh, so I already got one from Luna. Did you ever see yourself where you're at now? That's a great question, Luna.
Lunita. I love that name. Did I ever see myself where I am now? No. I was a quiet kid, except for when I was messing around. But I won't tell those stories. I don't want to give y'all any ideas. I was a pretty quiet kid. I was shy. I had a really bad stutter. I would freeze up when I was trying to speak, and then people would like laugh, and then I'll get mad. Miss Fuller, my 7th grade drama teacher at Cole, made us all memorize a Langston Hughes poem, and it changed my life because I could like recite a poem. So Luna, I've spent most of my life just kind of doubting myself and not being sure about things. If you would have told me back in the day that that I would be Colorado Teacher of the Year, I probably wouldn't have believed you. But now I'm able to see myself as being able to do more things. So thank you for that question.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Munoz. Here's another one from Michael. What was it like living close to school and getting there late?
Man, it was wild because I would like miss breakfast sometimes. They didn't used to give us out breakfast, and I would just be like stressed and running, and I would like get there. I'd be like, okay, I'm here. And it was math class. I missed Braddock's math class first. I was always late to that class. I always felt really bad because I like being on time. And so it was stressful. It was some stressful mornings.
Perfect. I think we could definitely close out with this one. Hold on, my computer's freezing up. This is from Miss Yet. Do you have any pointers for students who may feel like they may not have what it takes to be successful in the world? So any pointers on that?
Oh, man. You know, I think the number one thing I would say is that be clear about what your goals are, about what you want to accomplish, and do your best to learn about what steps it takes to get to that place. I wanted to be valedictorian of my class when I started in high school. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't tell anybody what my goals were. Sometimes I felt like my goals were dumb. I'm like, oh, that's crazy. How's an East Side kid going to be valedictorian? Ain't going to happen. But I've learned from working with my own students that if you verbalize, hey, Mr. Carter, I kind of want to do this, you know, and your teachers are going to support you. And then I would just say, you know, really listen to yourself, like really listen to the things that interest you and the things that you're good at and all that kind of stuff, and commit yourself to just growing a little bit better every day. Nobody steps into success without a little bit of hard work and sacrifice, but do it on your terms. And I think just knowing who you are and what matters to you is the first step. And, you know, then just do your best. You don't have to be perfect every single day. You don't have to get 100% on every single assignment you ever do in every class. You just have to want to get better. And that's what it really comes down to, and to understand. But yeah, I mean, that's what I would say. And y'all are at a great point in life because you've got this clean slate. 8th graders, y'all be going into high school next year, and you get that clean slate to start off with.
Thank you, Mr. Munoz. I can relate to a lot of things. We've kind of had similar paths, but really appreciate you sharing. And so, guys, go ahead and use that emoji, show some love, do some clap. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for coming to our school. Hopefully, we see you in person when we're able to do that.
Always. Yeah. Love me some Cole Middle School. I'll even bring my.
This is awesome.
Flip through it.
Okay.
Also, I do want to tell Jessica, we didn't have Refocus back then. But referrals, oh yeah. I made some not great choices. But always there was love in the community for that. So yeah, and if y'all want more questions answered, have Miss Casimir send me some questions. I'd be happy to send you some responses. This is what I live for. I love interacting with students. Y'all give me breath. Thank you for today.
Thank you, Mr. Munoz. So, Dragons, thank you so much. Just some quick reminders for today. The food pantry is open from 2:30 to 3:30 at the Cole High School. There is IA makeups after this whole school morning meeting, social studies and science. And if you're done with your IA test, you should be working actively on iReady, making up all your work all day. Make sure you take some breaks in between, and make sure you definitely take your lunch, but make sure you're logged in to make sure that you're doing your best to get your grades up. That is all for us. Have a great day and work hard on your IAs, and we will see you guys later. Thank you, Mr. Munoz. All right, go ahead and start logging off. You should
Carter.
Yeah, go ahead, Miss Moore.
Do you want me to just end the meeting? I was
yes.
That works. Okay, cool.
Okay, thank you, Miss Moore. All right, bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.